Game development explained. No theory, just what works.
So picture this. You're sitting at your desk, right? And you're just staring blankly at your monitor.
Oh, I know this feeling.
Yeah, you totally do. On the screen is this massive, just endlessly scrolling Slack thread. And you're frantically scrolling up, up, up. You're desperately using the search bar, trying, different keywords, different random combinations of phrases.
As you know, there's something specific in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're doing this because, with absolute certainty that a crucial decision was made about this project exactly 2 weeks ago. Like millions of dollars or maybe just months of your team's sanity are on the line here.
Right, and you remember the vibe of the conversation.
Yes, you remember the feeling of consensus. You remember the little emojis people were dropping. You remember everyone chiming in and agreeing. But now, as you sit there staring at the screen, this chilling realization washes over you.
Nobody actually remembers what was agreed upon.
Nobody. And more importantly, nobody remembers why it was agreed upon. You have basically full-blown digital amnesia.
It is a profoundly universal and, frankly, a profoundly stressful modern experience.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are exploring a super fascinating set of ideas today. We're drawing from this incredibly insightful essay titled, "Your Decisions Are Leaking. Paper is the Fix," along with some, synthesized breakdown surrounding it.
It's a great piece. Really cuts to the core of how we work.
It really does. So our mission today is to get to the root of this systemic failure. We're going to explore why modern, high-speed digital communication is actually breaking our ability to make lasting choices. And, weirdly enough, why a seemingly outdated analog tool—
Literally just a pen and paper.
Right, literally pen and paper.
Yeah.
Why that might be the ultimate hard mode productivity hack.
I mean, it sounds totally counterintuitive, right? Especially in a business culture that just idolizes digital efficiency.
Oh, absolutely.
We operate under this unspoken assumption that if we just communicate faster, if we integrate more chat tools, if we keep everyone instantly updated all the time, our projects will naturally succeed.
More tools equals more success, right? That's the myth.
Exactly. But the reality flips that entirely on its head. The core thesis here is that we don't actually have a communication problem in our modern workspaces.
We really don't. We have so much communication.
Too much, arguably. What we actually have is a closure problem.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that distinction between communication and closure, that is the crux of everything we're talking about today.
It really is the foundation.
So think about your own day-to-day right now as you're listening to this, whether you're managing a massive tech project, organizing a community event, or just trying to keep your own personal projects from spiraling into total chaos.
You're just constantly swimming in communication.
You are drowning in it. You're soaked, but you are starving for actual closure. So to fix this problem, we first have to accurately diagnose it, right?
Right. We have to move away from the symptom.
Yeah, we have to stop treating too many messages as the disease.
Yeah.
That's just a symptom.
The actual disease, if we look closely, is how velocity, sheer speed, masks a lack of permanence.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Velocity masking permanence.
Yeah, think about the physical architecture of how choices are actually made in a modern production environment. 10 or 15 years ago, a major project pivot happened in a room.
Right, physically in a room.
Exactly. People sat down, an agenda was set, somebody actually took minutes, and a formal document emerged from that meeting.
You had a tangible record of what happened.
But today, decisions happen in motion. They happen in the middle of a threaded chat at 4:00 p.m. on a Friday.
Oh man, the Friday afternoon Slack decisions are the worst.
They're lethal. They happen during a 5-minute digital huddle. Or they're buried deep inside nested task comments on some random Jira ticket.
And it feels incredibly fast. You tag someone, they reply instantly, you drop a thumbs up emoji, and boom, you feel like you've moved the needle.
You get that hit.
Yeah, that immediate rush of high velocity efficiency.
But that feeling is essentially a neurological trick. It creates a highly predictable failure mode because this high-speed communication produces what the source calls low memory decisions.
Low memory decisions.
Yeah. And the central mantra we really need to internalize from this deep dive is this: typing is not deciding.
Whoa. Typing is not deciding. That challenges the entire posture of the modern knowledge worker.
It absolutely does. We genuinely believe that because our fingers are moving across the keyboard, because text is appearing on a screen and we're clearing out our notifications, that real work is being accomplished.
We confuse the physical act of typing with the cognitive heavy lifting of cementing a choice.
Precisely. If we break down the underlying psychology of throughput versus closure, the distinction becomes glaring.
Okay, explain throughput versus closure.
So speed, by its very nature, optimizes for throughput. It is purely about moving information quickly from one node, one person to another.
Right, like moving data through a pipe.
Exactly. And chat tools are absolute marvels of engineering when it comes to throughput. They are fantastic for broadcasting information or coordinating little micro actions.
Like finding out who's buying lunch.
Exactly. If you need to know who is taking the 2 p.m. client call, Slack is perfect. It gives everyone that warm, comforting feeling of being in the loop.
Right, everyone loves being in the loop.
But throughput is the exact opposite of finality. These high-speed tools are fundamentally incapable of preserving trade-offs.
They can't herd the reasoning.
No, they cannot hold the complex reasoning behind a choice.
Okay, here's how I visualize this. It's like modern digital communication is essentially a massive, high-pressure fire hose.
Okay, I like this.
You have this incredible, unprecedented bandwidth and volume of water. You can blast information at your entire company instantly across the globe.
Complete saturation.
Right. But the problem is the bucket you are trying to fill, like your team's actual structural memory, is made out of chicken wire.
Oh, that's such a good image.
Right. You have the fire hose on full blast, water is going everywhere, you are completely soaked, and you feel incredibly productive because, hey, look at all this water moving.
So much activity.
But the second you turn off the hose and look down, the bucket is completely empty. You have zero retention.
That captures the system dynamics perfectly. High bandwidth, zero retention. And when you operate a complex project with zero retention, the project naturally accumulates invisible decisions.
Invisible decisions? That sounds dangerous.
It's toxic to a project. These are choices that technically occurred. Like you said in the intro, you could probably find them if you dug through a chat log for 3 hours with the exact right keyword combination.
But practically speaking, they're gone.
Right. They cannot be retrieved reliably when the team actually hits a roadblock. And this leads to something called decision drift.
Okay, let's define decision drift because it sounds like the silent killer of project management.
It absolutely is. So without a written anchor, like a solid, undeniable point of reference, the backlog of work slowly mutates over time.
Mutates how?
It mutates based on whoever has the loudest memory in the room, or whoever can point to the most recent, out-of-context digital notification.
Ah, so it's just recency bias and loud voices.
Exactly. When decisions don't persist, projects cannot converge. They just wander aimlessly. And what's fascinating here is how teams misdiagnose this.
How so? What do they blame it on?
Well, when a team suffers from expensive rework, or when 2 engineers implement completely contradictory features, management usually steps in and blames a lack of discipline.
They say, you guys are just being sloppy.
Right. They say, this team is careless, they aren't paying attention. But it isn't a lack of discipline. It is the default, inevitable outcome of tool-driven collaboration.
Wow. So the tools themselves are generating the chaos.
Keeping everyone constantly in the loop with micro updates paradoxically leaves everyone completely out of the actual structural decision-making process.
I think we also have to admit our own complicity in this, though. Like, there's a deep psychological comfort in just typing.
Oh, massive comfort.
Typing a quick sounds good, or let's go with option B in a chat thread feels amazing. It gives you this immediate dopamine hit of productivity.
You feel like you did your job for the day.
Exactly. You cleared the notification, you answered the question, you are the responsive, fast-moving employee, but you are completely bypassing the heavy, uncomfortable cognitive load of actual commitment.
You're taking the easy way out.
Yeah. You aren't really deciding, you are just reacting to a stimulus.
Precisely. You are confusing a reflex with a structural commitment to a project path. You're swatting away a fly and calling it architecture.
Swatting a fly and calling it architecture. That's brutal, but so true.
And that fundamental confusion mistaking chat reflexes for structural decisions is what initiates the communication chaos loop.
Okay, so if typing creates this false sense of security, what happens when the illusion actually breaks? Like, how does this systemic failure play out in a high-stakes, real-world environment?
It follows a highly destructive, deeply predictable pattern, and it usually starts innocently enough.
They always do.
Someone proposes a change. Let's say we are building a fitness app, right? And someone says, we should really add a social leaderboard feature.
Okay, sounds like a normal suggestion.
Right. And this sparks a flurry of chat messages. People weigh in, opinions are shared, maybe a few quick mock-ups get tossed into the thread, emojis are deployed. Everyone feels highly collaborative.
Lots of throughput.
Exactly. Lots of water through the hose. Eventually, a lead developer or a product manager chimes in and drops the fatal phrase, "Sounds good."
Oh, the dreaded "sounds good." I swear that might be the most dangerous 3 syllables in corporate history.
It really is. So, based on that ephemeral "sounds good," the team actually starts implementing the change. People start writing code, designing interfaces, allocating actual budget.
Based on a chat message.
Yes. But here is where reality sets in. Fast forward 3 weeks, and a new context appears.
Like what?
Well, it turns out querying the database for all user scores to build this new leaderboard is causing massive latency. The whole app is slowing down.
Oh, no.
Or maybe the legal team flags a privacy issue with sharing user data. Suddenly, the landscape has fundamentally changed.
And naturally, when that new context hits, like when the app slows down, someone on the team is going to pull the emergency brake.
Oh, someone is going to freak out.
Yeah. They are going to look around and say, wait, why are we even building this leaderboard? This is causing a massive performance hit. It's ruining the core experience.
Right. And this is the critical point of failure in the chaos loop.
What happens?
Nobody can reconstruct the original trade-off. They cannot remember why they accepted this path and what they collectively knew they were sacrificing to get it.
Because it wasn't written down anywhere real.
Exactly. Because that reasoning wasn't explicitly preserved because it was just a thumbs up emoji in a sea of text, the team falls right back into an argument.
So they just start fighting again.
The entire debate about whether the app even needs a social feature restarts from square one. The original reasoning is lost, so the cycle repeats. High bandwidth, low retention. They're just stuck in a loop.
Now, I know game development is often cited in the source material as the ultimate crucible for this specific type of chaos. It's described as software development on hard mode.
Oh, game dev is notoriously difficult for this.
Why does this communication loop absolutely destroy game dev teams in particular?
Well, game development operates on hard mode because it possesses an incredibly dense network of interlocking dependencies combined with highly subjective quality bars.
What do you mean by interlocking dependencies?
In enterprise software, a button usually just submits a form. It's isolated. In a video game, there's almost no such thing as an isolated feature. A supposedly small change to a user interface, let's say, making an inventory button slightly larger, can trigger a catastrophic ripple effect across the entire studio.
Wait, really? Walk me through that. How does making a button slightly larger cause a catastrophe?
Okay, let's trace it. You make the inventory button 10 pixels wider, right?
Okay, seems harmless.
Now, because it's wider, that button physically obscures a tutorial prompt that appears in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Oh, I see.
Which means the tutorial needs to be rewritten or moved by the narrative team. Moving the tutorial impacts the balance tuning of how quickly a player learns the core mechanics, which involves the game designers.
It's snowballing.
Exactly. That change in pacing alters the content pipeline for the level designers. Furthermore, rendering that larger high-resolution button might actually introduce memory constraints on an older piece of console hardware.
Over 10 pixels.
Yes. So suddenly the engineering team is dealing with frame rate drops. And because the button is bigger, the text inside it behaves differently.
Which affects other languages.
Exactly. It ripples out to the localization team because the German translation of the word inventory is very long, and now it breaks the UI boundary completely.
Oh my gosh.
Which means you are suddenly failing platform compliance for a global release, and the whole game is delayed. All because a button size change discussed casually in a Slack chat.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
It really highlights how deeply interconnected these systems are.
And in an environment with that level of interconnected complexity, memory isn't just a nice-to-have organizational perk.
No, it's critical infrastructure.
Right. Memory is a vital production tool. Remembering why a choice was made is just as structurally important as the code or the 3D art assets themselves.
If you lose the why, you lose the project.
If a studio's memory is stored entirely in a Slack scrollback buffer, they are literally building a skyscraper on sand. You cannot rely on a chat app's finicky search function to hold the structural integrity of a massive multi-million-dollar project.
Because when the German localization breaks, you need the history.
Exactly. You need to know exactly why the button was made larger in the first place, so you can decide if the trade-off is still worth it. If you don't have that context, you just start arguing and blaming each other.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second on behalf of anyone listening who is steeped in modern agile methodologies.
Sure, bring it on.
Isn't the entire philosophy of agile development designed to adapt to new contexts? Like, If a new bug appears or a new technical constraint like that memory drop is discovered, shouldn't we be constantly reevaluating our choices anyway?
That's a very common pushback.
Right. Why is relitigating such a bad thing? Isn't that just what being agile means?
That is a brilliant question, but it highlights a massive misunderstanding of what agility actually is. Adapting to new information is absolutely the goal of agile methodologies, but adapting is not what is happening in the chaos loop.
What's the difference?
Adapting means looking at your recorded baseline, looking at the newly discovered information, and making a calculated pivot from point A to point B.
So you need to actually know what point A is first.
Exactly. Relitigating the same debate from scratch simply because the original reasoning was lost is not agility. It is pure waste.
It's just spinning your wheels.
It's organizational amnesia masquerading as flexibility. The lack of retained context means the team isn't iterating forward, they're just spinning in circles. Agility requires a firm foundation to pivot from.
If you don't know why you are where you aren't pivoting.
Right. You're just lost in the woods, running from tree to tree in a panic.
Wow. Agility requires a firm foundation to pivot from. That completely shifts the perspective. Because if you don't have absolute closure on step 1, you can't agilely move to step 2.
You're just endlessly repeating step 1 with different variations of stress.
So if high-velocity digital tools are creating this endless chaos loop by completely removing all barriers to communication, how do we break the loop?
Well, if the problem is zero resistance...
Solution has to be reintroducing resistance, right?
Precisely. And this brings us to the core mechanism of the fix. Tactical friction.
Tactical friction. I love the sound of that.
We need to deliberately, consciously slow down the exact point of decision. And this is where the seemingly bizarre concept of switching to physical paper comes in.
Which sounds so weird in 2026.
It does. But I want to be very clear. This isn't about romance. This isn't nostalgia. This isn't some hipster desire to use expensive fountain pens and leather-bound notebooks.
Right, we're not being precious about stationery here.
Not at all. This is about applied cognitive science. Paper is a technology, and it is a technology that forces specific psychological behaviors.
I really love that framing. We aren't writing by candlelight to feel poetic. We are utilizing paper as a blunt instrument to trigger constraints.
Exactly. Blunt force cognitive constraints.
And the breakdown of this points to 3 specific cognitive constraints that paper enforces, which digital tools bypass entirely. Let's dig into the first one, forced compression.
Forced compression is the antidote to the vagueness that digital abundance encourages.
Vagueness is so easy online.
Because on a digital page, in an endless Google Doc, or in an infinite chat thread, you can hide behind incredibly vague, sprawling statements.
Give me an example.
Okay, a phrase like, "We should really focus on improving the user onboarding experience this quarter." That phrase can float around a Slack channel for 3 weeks.
And everyone will nod along.
People will react to it, they'll agree with it, executives will praise it, but it never actually becomes specific. It takes up massive amounts of digital space without taking up any actual conceptual weight.
Because in a chat, there is literally no physical limit to how much you can type. You don't have to be precise. You just keep talking around the issue, padding it with, like, corporate speak.
But paper has rigid, undeniable physical boundaries. It forces specificity. You literally cannot fit 3 weeks of vague, meandering corporate speak onto a single, small index card.
You run out of room.
Yes. It forces you to compress that vague feeling into a highly concrete action. Instead of, "We should improve onboarding," paper forces you to construct sentences like, "We will add one mandatory onboarding step that requires the user to connect their bank account before they can access the dashboard."
There's no room for fluff.
None.
Wow.
The rule of thumb here is quite ruthless. If you cannot write your decision in one single sentence, you do not understand your own decision yet. Compression is the shortest path to clarity.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. This reminds me of packing a suitcase for a long trip.
Oh, I like this. Go on.
When you have a massive, unlimited digital trunk, like unlimited cloud storage or a chat log, you just throw every vague idea in. You throw in 5 jackets, 10 pairs of shoes, every maybe, every what if.
Because why not? It fits.
Exactly. You don't filter. When you only have a tiny physical carry-on, which is the paper card in this scenario, you are forced to ruthlessly prioritize what actually matters. You strip away the office politics. You strip away the vague hopes. You are left with only the verb and the noun, the actual work to be done.
That is a phenomenal analogy. The physical limitation forces cognitive clarity. The limitation strips away the fat. The constraint is the feature, not the bug.
It makes so much sense. Okay, which leads us directly to the second cognitive constraint triggered by paper, the micropause.
The micropause. I think this one is incredibly profound.
I want to spend some time on this because I think it speaks to the baseline anxiety that most of us feel at work every single day.
It absolutely does. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have deeply, perhaps permanently, conflated reaction speed with competence in our modern work culture.
Yes. If you don't reply in 5 minutes, people think you're slacking off.
We implicitly believe that if we reply to a message within 30 seconds, we are demonstrating value. We are showing that we are on top of things.
But are we actually doing good work?
Usually, no. The neurological reality is that rapid responses rely almost entirely on our reactive brain.
The lizard brain.
Exactly. The physical act of stopping what you were doing, picking up a pen, opening a notebook, or pulling out an index card, it forces a literal physical slowdown.
So it breaks the rhythm.
Yes, it creates a critical, tangible boundary between reacting to a stimulus and deciding on a strategic direction.
Because typing has become pure muscle memory for us. It's almost involuntary at this point. You hear that little slack knock brush sound, your fingers literally twitch, and you've typed "sounds good" before your prefrontal cortex has even fully processed the implication of what you just agreed to.
Exactly. The physical act of writing short-circuits that reactive response. The friction of the pen on paper engages the deliberate, critical thinking parts of your brain.
You actually have to think about the letters you're drawing.
Right. Much of the chaos team's experience stems from quick, unthinking reactions being mistakenly treated by the rest of the team as deep, long-term architectural commitments.
Oh, that's such a dangerous mismatch.
The micropause forces you to acknowledge the weight of the moment. You are forced to realize, I am no longer just chatting, I am committing the resources of my team.
You are breaking the trance of the scroll. You are forcing yourself to be present in the decision. Okay, so we have forced compression acting like packing a tight suitcase, and we have the micropause short-circuiting our lizard brain. What is the third constraint?
The third constraint is the physical anchor, and this deals primarily with object permanence.
Like a baby learning that a toy still exists when you hide it.
Essentially, yes. As we discussed, digital information constantly competes with infinite noise. A digital document, no matter how profoundly important it is ultimately just one of 100 tabs open on your browser.
And you can just close it without thinking.
A critical chat message is instantly pushed up and off the screen by the very next message. Out of sight, out of mind.
Gone forever.
But a physical decision card sitting right next to your keyboard, that occupies physical space in your reality. It is a three-dimensional object. It keeps the choice present during execution.
It's literally staring at you. You can't just hit Command W and close the tab on it.
Right. And because it is physically there, it makes closure much easier to maintain than relitigation.
Because you can't ignore it.
Exactly. When a question arises 2 weeks later, the answer isn't buried inside a finicky search function. It isn't lost in a locked private channel that half the team doesn't even have access to.
It's tangibly sitting right in front of the team.
It is an undeniable physical artifact of a consensus that was reached. It serves as a totem of agreement.
Okay, so we've established why paper works on a psychological and neurological level. It forces clarity through compression. It enforces a micropause to stop reactive decisions, and it serves as a physical anchor in a sea of digital noise.
The theory is sound.
Right, the theory is solid. Now let's look at the exact practical blueprint for how to actually deploy this in real life. What is the precise tool we're using to create this closure?
The framework for this is a very specific format called the decision card, and it is governed by what we can call the anti-chaos rule.
The anti-chaos rule, I love it.
The rule is absolute, and it requires discipline. No decision becomes a commitment until it exists as a written card.
Okay, but wait. I can literally hear the collective groan of project managers everywhere right now. They're thinking, oh, great, not another piece of paperwork.
I get that reaction a lot.
I want to be very clear here for the listener. We are not talking about creating a 5-page, heavily formatted design document that requires a steering committee to review and approve.
No, absolutely not. That would defeat the purpose.
We aren't trying to drown you in heavy bureaucracy. Filling out this card should take under 2 minutes whenever a pivot occurs. It is incredibly lightweight, but highly structured.
Right. It is designed specifically to prevent the two most expensive, agonizing failures a team can make.
Which are?
relitigating forgotten trade-offs and letting the project backlog drift entirely away from reality because all the actual decisions live only in ephemeral chat logs.
So it's 2 minutes to save 2 weeks of pain.
Exactly. And there are 7 specific elements to this card. Each one serves a distinct psychological purpose.
Let's walk through them and let's spend some time on why each one matters, because they're all there for a reason. Number 1 is the decision itself. And as we learned from the force compression constraint, this must be a 1-sentence summary.
Yes. One single sentence.
Why is it so incredibly hard for people to write just one sentence?
Because writing one sentence requires making a choice about what the most important part of the decision actually is. It removes your ability to hedge your bets.
Oh, people love hedging.
If you write a paragraph, you can include caveats, excuses, and little escape hatches for yourself. A single sentence forces you to declare definitively what is going to happen.
I love that. Okay, number 2 is context. Briefly, what triggered this change? Why are we doing this now? Was it a bug report? A stakeholder request? A shift in the market?
Context is crucial because it provides the why for future readers.
Right, for the people 6 months from now.
Exactly. 6 months down the line, when the team looks at the card, they need to know if the decision was driven by an absolute immovable technical limitation or if it was just a passing whim of the CEO.
That makes a huge difference in how you handle it later.
It really does. Number 3 is options. What were the A, B, and C paths that were actually considered before settling on this one?
Now, this one fascinates me. Why do we need to document the paths we didn't take? Isn't that just wasted space on a small card?
Not at all. It's actually a massive time saver. Documenting the discarded options proves that alternatives were weighed. It prevents tunnel vision. Well, when someone inevitably challenges the decision later, and they will, and they say, hey, why didn't we just use a third-party API instead of building this ourselves? You can point to the card.
And say, we already thought of that.
Exactly. You say, we looked at that, it was option B, we discarded it because the licensing fees were too high. It instantly shuts down circular arguments by proving the ground has already been covered.
Brilliant. Preempting the argument. Okay, number 4. This one is notoriously tricky in corporate environments. The decision owner.
Oh, yes. Naming a decision owner is critical, and it is almost always the most politically sensitive part of the whole process.
People get really weird about claiming ownership.
They do. And I want to be very clear here. This is not about assigning a scapegoat so you know exactly who to fire if things go wrong.
Right, it's not a blame game.
It is about establishing a single point of closure. In many modern organizations, particularly those that pride themselves on having flat hierarchies or consensus-driven culture.
Oh yeah, where everyone's a boss and nobody's a boss.
Exactly. In those cultures, asking for a single name on a decision reveals massive conflicting incentives.
Right, because you might have a situation where the head of design and the lead engineer both secretly think they own the feature, but as long as it's just vague chat messages, they never have to confront that conflict.
They can both operate under their own assumptions forever.
Yeah, they just peacefully coexist in delusion.
And that is a ticking time bomb for a project. By forcing a single name onto the physical card, you force that political conflict out into the open immediately.
You make them deal with it.
You surface that tension on day one, while it is still a manageable, polite conversation over coffee, rather than letting it turn into a massive project-destroying fire in the middle of execution on day 80.
That's so smart.
It forces people to actually align and concede authority, rather than just nodding along and preserving their own little fiefdoms.
It's a great way to start a fight, honestly, but it's the right fight at the right time.
Okay.
Number 5 is, to me, the absolute bleeding heart of this entire system, the trade-off. What gets worse or what gets moved out to make room for this decision?
This point cannot be overstated. It is the defining characteristic of a mature, functional team.
Mature is the key word.
Because a decision isn't just choosing what you want to do. It isn't just adding a cool new feature to the wish list and feeling good about it.
Anyone can do that.
A true decision is explicitly, painfully choosing what you are not going to do, or acknowledging what will suffer as a direct result.
The sacrifice.
Yes. If you add a new social feature, the app's performance might get worse. If you pull in a launch deadline, the scope of the marketing campaign has to be reduced. There is always a cost.
Think about the last big strategic meeting you were in, as a listener. A new initiative was launched, a new goal was set. Did anyone in that room explicitly write down and agree upon what was going to get worse because of your new plan?
I would bet a lot of money they didn't.
I highly doubt it, too. Human beings hate trade-offs. We suffer from massive loss aversion. We want to believe we can just have it all. We love to talk about the gains, but we absolutely refuse to document the pain.
And that refusal is exactly what causes the chaos loop. Because as the saying goes, a decision without a written trade-off is just a future argument.
Oh, that's so true.
By documenting exactly what will get worse right there on the card, the team preempts future panic. When the app's performance dips 3 weeks later, the team doesn't freak out. They don't start pointing fingers at each other.
They just pull the card.
They pull the card and say, yes, we knew this latency would happen. We accepted this specific trade-off to get the feature shipped by Q3.
It removes the emotion.
It entirely removes the emotional volatility from the development process. It turns a sudden crisis into a calculated expectation.
It's incredibly liberating. You are literally pre-approving the failure of certain metrics, so nobody gets in trouble later. Okay, let's finish the card. Number 6 is done when. This defines the observable success state. How do we objectively know this decision has been fully executed?
This seems like a great guard against scope creep.
It is. It totally prevents the just one more thing syndrome where a feature never actually ships. And finally, number 7. Revisit.
The revisit date.
This is a specific date or a specific metric condition where the team agrees to look at the choice again. Why is the revisit date so important? Psychologically, why do engineers or creatives fight so hard against committing to a decision in the first place?
Because they fear permanence. People fight tooth and nail against a decision because they think if it's wrong, they're stuck with it forever. It's terrifying.
It feels like a life sentence.
A revisit date completely disarms the ego. It turns a permanent, terrifying law into a temporary, measurable experiment.
Oh, I love the word experiment there.
If an engineer hates the new architecture plan, you don't argue with them. You say, let's put a revisit date for 30 days from now. If the server load is above 80%, we scrap it.
So they don't have to win the argument today.
Exactly. Suddenly, they don't have to fight you today. They just have to wait for the data to prove their point. It dramatically lowers the barrier to reaching consensus.
It's a brilliantly simple system. A one-sentence decision, the context, the discarded options, the single owner, the painful trade-off, the success date, and the review date. 2 minutes of cognitive friction to save 2 weeks of arguing.
That's the math.
But here is the reality check, right? Knowing what to do is only half the battle. The other half is actually getting human beings to change their behavior.
Always the hardest part.
Introducing new tools often triggers massive organizational resistance. People despise process theater. If I just walk into work tomorrow and start demanding my coworkers fill out index cards, aren't they going to think I've completely lost my mind? How do we actually roll this out in a real company?
The secret here is what we call a stealth rollout.
Stealth rollout.
You do not need to call a massive all-hands meeting. You do not create a 40-slide PowerPoint deck about the new decision card paradigm.
God, please don't do that.
Right. You don't try to convince the entire organization to change their deeply ingrained habits overnight. That will inevitably fail. It will be rejected as just another management fad.
So what do you do instead?
Instead, you start quietly with yourself or just your immediate lead group. You implement the discipline in 3 specific high-leverage places.
Okay, let's go through the 3 places. Place number 1, before acceptance. Let's say someone comes to you in Slack and says, hey, we should really change the flow of this marketing email sequence.
A classic vague request.
Right. You don't argue with them, but you also don't just say, sounds good, and agree. You introduce the tactical friction right there. You say, great idea. I'm slammed right now. Can you write that out as a one-sentence decision with the trade-off and just drop it on my desk?
You force the compression onto them.
Exactly. You make them do the cognitive heavy lifting before you accept the mental burden of the pivot.
It's a great filter. Place number 2, during execution, you literally keep the physical card visible. You tape it to your monitor. You make it the anchor for the work being done, constantly referencing it in daily stand-ups to prevent the team from drifting off target.
So it's pointing at the card. This is what we're doing.
Yep. And place number 3, which I think is the most powerful tactic of all. When challenged,
Oh, this is the best part.
when someone inevitably comes back 2 weeks later and says, this new email sequence is ruining our open rates, whose terrible idea was this, you don't engage in a defensive argument based on your flawed memory.
You don't get angry.
No, you just pull the physical card.
This raises an important question, though, about the tools we already use. What about massive digital tools like Jira, Notion, Asana, or Confluence? Organizations spend absolute fortunes setting up these massive digital repositories.
You do, and they make a critical error when they do it.
What's the error?
They mistake digital storage capacity for actual team alignment. They think because a beautifully formatted document exists in the cloud, consensus has automatically been reached.
But it hasn't.
No, those tools are really just infinite digital filing cabinets. They are fantastic at storing information once it exists, but they are incredibly poor at facilitating the painful act of deciding.
Wow.
A perfectly organized Notion page is utterly useless if the team hasn't actually endured the heavy, uncomfortable act of deciding together.
Pulling the physical card neutralizes the ego completely. You aren't arguing with a coworker's memory. You aren't saying, I told you so. You are both collectively reviewing a physical artifact of a past consensus.
It's very disarming.
You look at the card together and say, look, we agreed to accept the lower open rate to prioritize a higher click-through rate on the premium product. Do we still agree with that trade-off?
And if the answer is no,
you don't waste time arguing about who said what 3 weeks ago. You just deliberately write a new card to revise the trade-off. It empowers you to bypass all the corporate process theater and just quietly start functioning at a higher level.
And to determine if your team is actually functioning at a higher level, you can administer what the author calls the final test.
The final test. Let's hear it.
It consists of 2 brutally honest questions you can ask your team right now to diagnose if you have a communication problem or a closure problem. Question 1. What was the last meaningful decision we made, and what specific trade-off did we accept to make it?
Oof. If the team looks at you with blank stares, or if everyone gives a slightly different answer, you're in trouble. You have high throughput, but no closure.
Exactly. And question 2, where is that decision written in a form that the team can find in exactly 30 seconds?
30 seconds, that's fast.
The ultimate rule to live by here is this. If you cannot find the documented decision in 30 seconds, it does not exist.
Why 30 seconds? Why such a strict cutoff?
Because at 31 seconds, people stop looking. They give up and just ask someone in Slack, which restarts the entire chaos loop of opinions and half-remembered facts all over again.
Oh man, that is so true.
It doesn't matter if the decision is beautifully formatted and buried in a Slack thread from 3 months ago or lost in a massive nested Google Doc folder structure.
If they can't find it, it's gone.
If it isn't instantly retrievable by the people actually doing the work, the decision never truly happened. Communication chaos is not solved by buying more chat tools. It is solved by decision retention.
So what does this all mean? We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. We've deconstructed how the high-speed fire hose of digital communication is incredible for throughput, but absolutely devastating for closure.
It washes away the memory.
We've examined how the simple act of typing creates a dangerous false sense of progress, leading to invisible decisions, mutated backlogs, and endless chaos loops where teams argue over forgotten trade-offs.
We've seen how painful that is in game dev.
Right. We looked at the intense pressures of game development to prove why memory is a structural production tool. And for you, listening right now, the tactical takeaway is super clear. You have to stop relying on typing as a substitute for deciding.
You have to step back.
You need to deliberately reintroduce tactical friction into your workflow. You need to embrace the micropause, force compression onto your vague ideas like you're writing a telegram, and document your explicit trade-offs on a physical decision card.
It is about recognizing that friction is not always the enemy of progress. Sometimes friction is the very traction required to actually move forward.
Friction is traction. I love that.
But as we synthesize all of this, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, looking toward the near future.
Okay, lay it on me.
This entire philosophy builds its premise on the idea that if a decision isn't written down or it can be found in 30 seconds, it doesn't exist. The physical paper solves the storage and rapid retrieval problem by pulling it out of the digital noise entirely. But what happens when technology evolves to solve that problem perfectly?
What do you mean? Like AI?
Exactly. Think about it. What happens when AI assistants are natively integrated into every Slack channel, every Zoom call, every email thread?
Which is basically happening right now.
What happens when an AI can automatically transcribe, flawlessly summarize, and instantly retrieve every single trade-off from our digital chatter upon request?
Like, hey AI, why did we change the button size last month?
Yes, and it instantly outputs the perfect answer with the context and the discarded options. If an AI can find any decision in 3 seconds, completely solving the retrieval problem, do we still need the physical paper?
Oh, wow. That is a phenomenal question. If the tech solves the amnesia, does the paper become obsolete?
It pushes us to consider that perhaps the true, enduring magic of the decision card isn't the ink on the page at all.
It's the friction.
Perhaps the magic is entirely in the uncomfortable analog friction. It is the physical act of forcing human beings to stop typing, to pull themselves out of the digital stream, to look each other in the eye, and to consciously, deliberately agree on what they are willing to sacrifice.
You can't outsource the pain of the sacrifice to an AI.
Exactly. Even with perfect, instantaneous AI recall, we might still desperately need the paper just to force ourselves to be honest about the trade-offs. The AI can remember the choice, but only a human can feel the weight of the sacrifice.
I absolutely love that. The friction is the point. It brings us right back to where we started today. Think about that endless scrolling Slack thread, the panic of not remembering why a choice was made, the fear of making a mistake.
You don't have to live in that panic.
You don't have to live in that chaos loop anymore. You have the blueprint for closure. Grab a pen, find a piece of paper, write down just one decision and its painful trade-off today, and experience the power of closure for yourself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep diving deep, and we'll catch you next time.
If this is useful, subscribe.
New breakdowns every week.